Hello everyone, Tommy's Reptiles here. In this video, I will be showing you my Quince Monitor. His name is Walter. I've had him for a little over a year now, and there's not a lot of information about these guys, so I'll tell you everything that I've learned so far. Their scientific name is Varanus melanus. When you translate melanus from Latin to English, it means belonging to honey. And the reason they have that name is because they have a yellow coloration similar to honey. They're called Quince Monitors because of the quince-like patterns on their back. In the wild, they're known to eat birds' eggs, insects, and tree frogs. I feed mine frozen thawed mice, shrimp, fish, quail eggs, insects, and once in a while, raw chicken or turkey. I usually feed him every other day, and once in a while, he'll go 2 or 3 days without eating, and when that happens, the next feeding, I'll feed him 2 days in a row. When he was a baby, he would only eat 1 frozen thawed pinky, and now he worked his way up to 2 frozen thawed fuzzies. As his size increases, the amount of food I give him will also increase. As far as handling goes, Quince Monitors are known to be very shy and skittish, but I've spent a lot of time working with him to try to get him as comfortable as he could possibly be with me. I try to avoid grabbing him at all costs, but once in a while, it's necessary. This is how I normally handle him. I just go hand over hand and let him climb on me, and it kind of builds trust quickly. I do my best to try to interact with him every single day. I try to put my hand in his enclosure, let him get my scent, let him climb on me, and I take him out and let him walk around. Monitor lizards are known to be one of the most intelligent reptiles on the planet, so if you do something to scare them or freak them out, they're not going to forget it. That's why it's key to make every interaction a positive one. I've also learned that the bigger a monitor gets, the more confident it will be, so it's less likely to be afraid of you. So if you can really earn his trust while it's small, it'll be worth it in the end when he's big. Adult Quince monitors average around 4 to 4.5 feet long. I believe Quince monitors were only recently discovered in 1997, so there's not that much valid information out there about them, so it's pretty hard to do some research if you want to get one. Most of the information I actually learned about them was from 2 friends I made on Instagram, and their Instagram handles are Primitive Reptiles and Philly Dub's Pet Debauchery. So if you want to learn more about Quince monitors, feel free to reach out to them, and I'm sure they can help you just like they helped me. I've heard that they're pretty hard to sex. I'm not entirely sure he's a male. One of my buddies thinks he is, but if he ends up being a she, we'll name her Wanda. I'm going to clean Walter's enclosure real quick while I tell you more information that I know about Quince monitors. They are said to be from the Sula Islands in Indonesia, but may also occur in Bengai. So when setting up Walter's habitat, I actually went on my weather app and added both of those regions to my phone, and I try to mimic the temperatures and humidity from those places. And since they are islands, that means that they have a lot of water, which is why I added a fish tank to my enclosure so Walter could hop in, swim around, and soak just like they do in the wild. I've actually wanted a monitor lizard for a long time, and then I narrowed my 2 options down to blue-tailed monitor and Quince monitor. Then after seeing some videos on YouTube about blue-tailed monitor bites, I easily chose Quince monitor. I read that they're less likely to bite and they're more of a timid monitor. And since having Walter, he's never bit me. He's just done fake mock charges, and now I think he's more comfortable with me, so he doesn't do any of that anymore. As you can see, Walter gets a lot of dirt in the fish tank, so I clean this filter once a week. I think in the future I'm going to switch up substrates to something that won't dirty up the fish tank. It usually takes the fish tank around an hour to get back to being crystal clear, but Walter hops in and will dirty it up within 2 seconds. I also clean the plexiglass panels at least once a week because Walter splashes water all over them and dirties them up. To clean them, I just use a little bit of distilled water that I use to spray my poison dart frog enclosures with, and it works pretty well. And while I'm doing this, I got to keep a close eye on Walter to make sure that he doesn't escape. Monitor lizards are escape artists since they're so smart, and they can wedge themselves in between and under and out of everything. And one time I actually had him escape for almost 2 days. He normally doesn't cling to the top of the screen like that, and I really don't like it when he does that because he could hurt himself. So I'm going to do my best to get him down from there so he doesn't get one of his fingers caught. Luckily, he doesn't do this too often, but it's a very tricky situation because it's very easy for him to get his finger caught, and I've actually had a lizard lose a finger this way before. I'm going to try to hopefully at least free one of his hands so I can try to coax him onto climbing onto me. And that's one of the big negatives to having a screen top to your enclosure. Not to mention, it's also hard to keep the humidity levels up. Okay, now his hands are free. Let's see if we can get him to climb onto my arm. I can tell that he's getting stressed, but he really needs to get down from here so he doesn't hurt himself. You can tell he's stressed when his vent is irritated. And when they're really stressed, they'll go to the bathroom on you. Luckily, Walter's only done that to me once when I first got him. But I prefer that over getting bit and having to go to the hospital to get stitches any day. I'm going to tell you the main reason why I think Quince monitors are probably one of the best pet monitors that you can get. As far as monitors go, Quince monitors do it all. They're arboreal, so they climb. They're semi-aquatic, so they swim. And they're terrestrial, because they hang out on land sometimes. As far as their lighting goes, I use a heat light, a UVB light, and an LED light that illuminates the whole entire enclosure. Online, I found that it says that their basking spot should be 125 degrees, and then the rest of the tank should be 90 to 85 degrees. I don't go quite that hot. I have Walter's basking spot range from 105 to 110 degrees, and the rest of his enclosure I have around 80 degrees. And the reason I didn't go that hot, besides my friends telling me that they don't go that hot, is Walter was always in the coolest part of the enclosure, so I know he was trying to avoid the heat. As you can see here, I like to do Walter's enclosure maintenance while he's out and about, so he's used to me working around him. If I notice he's getting a little defensive, I kind of just ignore him and leave him alone. I'm going to try to feed him another frozen thawed fuzzy, but he normally doesn't eat in front of me while he's in his enclosure for some reason. So since he's not going to eat it, I'm just going to lay it down on this rock, and by the time I come back, it'll probably be gone. In the meantime, I'll show you how I usually try to get him out of the enclosure. I try to present my arm as a climbing option, like a tree branch. I really like letting him come to me. He's always very curious and normally never refuses a chance to get out of the enclosure. Now I'm going to demonstrate how good he is in the water. I normally don't ever put him in the fish tank myself, but for the sake of this video, just to show you, I'm going to put him in. And you'll see how comfortable he is in the water. There's times I come home and he's taking a nap underwater, which is pretty funny. When I first got him, I was a little freaked out, but now I'm used to it. I have no idea how long they can hold their breath, but I swear I think he's been under there for like 45 minutes before. The heat radiating off the basking light actually makes the water pretty warm, so I'd think the water is around 82 degrees. Come on, Walter, get in the water. It's time for a swim. It's crazy how good swimmers they are. They look like little crocodiles when they're swimming around. Some of my plans for this enclosure in the future are to get a longer fish tank and also to provide more climbing options. It's important for Quince monitors and any reptile in general to have the biggest possible enclosure that you can provide. This enclosure is 4 feet long, 2 feet high, and 2 feet deep. And in the future, he will need a much bigger enclosure. At my house, I actually have an atrium that has nothing in it, and it's like 12 feet long, 8 feet wide, and 7 feet tall. And I'm hoping that I can one day make him an epic enclosure out of that. But if the wife says no, then I'll probably just make a big enclosure out of wood and chicken wire. Lucky enough for me, I live in South Florida, and the temperature and humidity here is almost the same exact as where they come from in the wild, so it's going to be awesome to keep him outside in the future. But when I do have him outside, I plan to have a little heat box for him that has a radiant heat panel. And yes, I keep one of these locks on his enclosure because he's escaped already, and I don't want to risk losing him again. I chose to keep him at the top of my shelf so we're always eye level, and he's used to seeing me walk around. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching Tommy's Reptiles.